Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Inspirational Interview series. This is for July 6th, 2021, and I have a super awesome guest, which I can't wait to introduce to you today. She's got lots of wisdom to share with all of us. Before I do that, though, I want to remind you all that I am going live using StreamYard, and if you can grant StreamYard permission for us to see your name, that would be fabulous. And then you too can participate in the conversation. So feel free to type in questions into the chat and participate in the conversation today. So today, my special guest is Deborah Fryer. And Deborah has a PhD, so she's gone through a lot of school. But she is also a spiritual business coach. So she works a lot with energy. And she's a money mindset mentor and founder of the Anatomy of Money holistic brain training system that incorporates ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience to reset, rewire, and recalibrate you for your best life, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. So she helps coaches, healers, and creative entrepreneurs build soul-aligned, sustainable businesses that serve people and the planet. She's been in award-winning documentaries. She's written books. She's a pretty amazing lady. I've connected with her on the levels of being a creative, being a yogini, being on this path of entrepreneurship. So I'm super excited to welcome Deborah Fryer to Inspirational Interviews.
Thanks for having me. So fun to be here.
Yay. Thanks for being here. So I'd love to just start with inviting you to share a little bit about your background. How did you come to do this work and who are you?
Okay, I'm going to start with the second question first because that's your question. So, we're so used to, especially in the entrepreneurial path, having to come up with some kind of an identity, like who are you? And I feel very comfortable at this point saying, I'm a spiritual being walking around in this skin suit known as Deborah, and I'm pretending to be Deborah, who does these things and who has these accolades and who has these degrees and these, they're like barrettes or earrings, all the different things that we pin onto ourselves. But you know what? They're totally interchangeable. So who I truly am, who I align with is energy, is pure spirit in a body. Now, down here on the earth plane, most people don't talk like that, but I know you and Hannah's community, you already do. So, what I do down here on the earth plane is I'm a spiritual business mentor, and I work with mostly women, and I help them unhook from the limiting beliefs that are hanging out in their subconscious mind, running their life, perhaps ruining their life. Beliefs like, I can't have that, or I don't deserve that, or who am I to be this authority? Who am I to be so flexible? Who am I to be so strong? Who am I to be so evolved, etc.? And I help women live lives that are more aligned, more soul aligned, and authentic to who you are, so that you be in integrity with who you truly are, which is the essence of you at the soul. Because when we're not in integrity at the soul level, we disintegrate. And it shows up in ways like we fall apart. I can't handle it, right? I'm falling apart. All these metaphors of I can't get my shit together. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to fall apart so that you stop identifying as a false version of you. So, you can tell I'm like really fierce about helping women remember your power, remember your magnificence, remember that you are pure Shakti, which is the Sanskrit word for the divine feminine creative life force that everything arises from. That's who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel I'm an empath, as I suspect a lot of you are in this community. And I feel physical pain. I feel physical heartache when I hear women negating themselves, disqualifying themselves, degrading themselves, arguing for their limitations. I'm like, please stop, goddess. Please, you are life force. So that's what I do down here in the earth plane.
So how did you come? Did you have your own breakdown before the breakthrough? How did you come to realize that this is your gift?
Oh yeah, I had a big breakdown and a big breakthrough, because a breakdown is a breakthrough. A breakthrough is a breakdown, because you're really breaking in. You're really breaking into the truth of who you are. You're breaking into the cage you've locked yourself in, and you're opening it and saying, okay, goddess, walk out and be free. So how did it show up for me? Well, it showed up for me. Number one, you heard from that lovely introduction that I'm an overachiever. And the reason that I overachieved was because I never felt like I knew enough. I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I was qualified. So what did I do? I did what conditioning told me to do, which was get another degree, right? If you have external validation, that means that you're good enough. Nothing in here knew I was good enough. So I needed more and more and more degrees. And every time I finished a degree, the validation would go away. If there were no more tests to take and no more A's for me to get, the validation went away. How crazy is that? But we're all wired like that. Yeah. So
I bet a lot of people here can relate.
Yeah. So, I was very much a result of my conditioning, the patriarchal conditioning that says, as a woman, you don't have any power. How dare you? You don't have any authority. How dare you? You can't make any money. How dare you? You need a man to take care of you. Who do you think you are? I was so steeped in this, I didn't even know that's the water I was swimming in. So I, in all of my rational, brilliant, analytical, I'm going to figure this outness, decided, oh, I'm going to go to medical school, because then I'll get a real degree and a real paycheck, and I'll have real respect, and I'll have real consistent income, and then I will actually be someone. And, I feel so much compassion to the younger version of me that felt like a nobody. And the truth is, I am nobody. Which, I feel like I can say that in this community without people going, oh my gosh, she's on crack. I'm not. So I tried off to medical school. And the crazy thing about this decision for me to go off to medical school is that I had never taken a science course in my life. I'd made hundreds of award-winning documentaries for PBS and Discovery Channel, and I was interviewing experts about climate change and physics and medicine and health, but I didn't know that stuff. And so I really felt like a fraud. So off I went to medical school, and I had to do all the post-baccalaureate pre-med qualifications. So organic chemistry, physiology, biology, anatomy, psychology, all that stuff. And I ate it up. It was fascinating to me. And I was working in an anatomy lab, and I got to be intimate with the insides of the body. And I was really afraid to live in my body. For many years, I had a lot of body shame. For many years, I just felt like I don't even want to live in this body. It's not safe to be in a body. Like many women, I had been emotionally abused. I had experienced some physical abuse. I certainly had experienced verbal abuse. And I abused my own body. And so I was like, it's not safe for me to even get near that thing, and I'm supposed to live here. And so it was very healing for me to actually get my hands in the body and understand how everything was interconnected. So how did I become aware that I actually had this gift? So here I am on the way to medical school. First, there was a flood in my town, and the flood flooded the room I'm in right now. The whole room, this is where my film editing suite was. I used to be a documentary filmmaker, and I edited here. That went away. This whole room was gutted down to the drywall. And energetically, this is the foundation of the house. This is in the basement. So this is root chakra. This is the earth element. And it got flooded. So that's also the water element. And, it got destroyed overnight. And we found ourselves $50,000 in debt immediately. And I was on my way to medical school, so I wasn't earning money. And I was also spending money to be learning. So, it was pretty painful. And then a couple weeks later, my dad dropped out of a heart attack. 1 minute he's reading the news at the computer, and then he falls off his chair and he's gone. And he died of a massive coronary. And, this is all about for me, it's my third chakra. My relationship with my dad was very complicated. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of resentment. There was a lot of me absorbing things from him, just like our digestive system absorbs food and it also rejects certain things as indigestible. And so now I'm at the third chakra level, right? The earth is the foundation of the house. The second chakra level was the water, the flood. The third chakra level was my dad. And when you lose a parent, whatever your relationship is, it's incredibly destabilizing. And the next day, it was my job to go into the anatomy lab, because remember, I'm on my way to medical school, and it's my job to take the heart out of the cadaver and prepare it.
Wow.
So I hit the heart chakra. And I remember I texted a note to my boss, and I said, I can't. And she said, of course, I understand. You don't have to. And then I sat with this version of me that said, I can't. And I realized I can't not. You know, I've just lost my dad to a massive coronary. My own heart is breaking. I can't not understand the heart. So I went into the anatomy lab and I did dissect a heart out of the body. And it was like the planetarium doors of my crown chakra opened and the entire universe rushed in. And I realized, holding the heart in my hands, that I'd been running my business completely against nature. Because the heart expands, contracts, it receives, it empties, right? It opens, it closes, and it's constantly in this. And this is one cycle. And I'd been operating as though this is the cycle. Give away, give away, give away. Don't sleep, don't eat, don't charge, you know, don't qualify yourself, don't have anything good to say about yourself. I was just giving, as in over giving. And I never gave myself permission to receive. I never gave myself permission to receive a compliment, or, you know, to not pull an all-nighter, or to say, I'm busy right now. I have already committed all the time I have in the week and I'm not available right now. I didn't know how to say no. And it was really affecting my business. I was 30 pounds heavier than I am right now. I was $100,000 in debt. And it was just such a profound and painful lesson of realizing I've been living totally against nature. And so I walked out of the anatomy lab that day. I looked at the aspens. I live in Colorado, and it was October, and they were transforming, and they were this beautiful gold. And I remember looking at the tree saying, how do you do that? How do you transform with such beauty and such majesty and such dignity?
Yeah.
Like, there's no drama. I mean, it's drama, but it's majestic and glorious.
Yeah.
And I heard the trees say, we'll teach you. And, you know, it was like the trees were talking to me. It's like nature was talking to me, because I am nature, you are nature. And I took that seriously, and I just started watching nature. I started watching how, as we moved into winter and all the leaves fell and the tree was so naked and so exposed and vulnerable, more light got in.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Like,
I love this so much. One of my programs that I lead, called the Deeper Dive, yesterday, as part of our online experience, I asked everybody to take 15 minutes and go sit with a plant or a tree outside and to ask it a question and to listen to what it said. And a couple of people yesterday were like, I thought you were crazy when you just told me to do that. But then they were like, but what I got was so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. And that also makes me think of the Mary Oliver poem where it's about talking about goldenrod, and the goldenrod is giving its gold away. Like, it's freely giving its gold away. So yeah, what a great teaching from nature. Just for the sake of time, I want to transition us into more pointedly talking about money and why we, especially as women, I think, have such challenges around money.
Great question.
I also, did you want to, I'm sorry, was there more to that story that you wanted to wrap up?
No,
with
that's plenty. Okay. That's plenty. Like, it seeds the conversation.
Okay.
I'm going to stay with the trees.
Yeah.
When we frame the question about money, because imagine a tree right now, visualize a tree right now. The tree is operating, it's living, it's thriving because it is both giving and receiving. In the same way we talked about the heart doing it like this in a 3D way, a tree is doing it like this, right? So the crown, which is like the crown chakra of you, which is connected to the all that is literally transforming sunlight into sugar, and it's pulling that down. So literally it's pulling down into its self, into its physical self. It's transforming the non-physical into the physical. And when we make money, what we're doing is the same thing the tree is doing. We are literally transforming the non-physical, right? We're grabbing onto an idea, a nudge, an inspiration, some like fleeting dream wisp that we're like, oh my God, I have to paint that, or I have to make a pot out of that, or I need to write about that, or I need to dance it out, or I need to speak it into being. It exists out here in the non-physical. And Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this in Big Magic. All this brilliance is floating around all the time. And if you don't say, that's mine, I'm doing something with it, somebody else will. Mm-hmm. So in the same way that the sunlight is shining upon everything, each tree individually says, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to do something with it. Mm-hmm. And it's also going in the other direction. So we're going from non-physical to physical. The tree also is pulling the water up from its roots. So its roots are reaching into the underground aquifers that are totally connected, interconnected, because there's one water cycle on Earth that is circulating at all times and touching all things at all times. So the tree is reaching into the water supply and it's pulling the water up to go to all the leaves. And we're also doing that. We're both spiritualizing the material. We're seeing something on the screen of our minds, and then we start to talk about it. And then our heart gets excited about it. And then we start to discern, okay, I'll do this, but I won't do that. And this will work and that won't work. And we start to we start to chew on it and digest it. And then pretty soon it physicalizes and there it is in real life. So we're spiritualizing the material, but we also materialize spirit, right? You create a course, let's say, and then you put it out into the world. And now people come and they buy your course. You created something physical, you put it out into the world, whether it was you being on Facebook or you did an email campaign or you set up a table on the corner of your town park and you baked cookies and you sold them. You did something creatively. And then what comes back to you? Money. So we can spiritualize the material and we can materialize the spirit. And it is through our creativity that we create money. It's not that you need money to be creative. Your creativity is the flywheel. It's the hand that starts the flywheel in motion. It's, again, that Shakti life force that you are. Mm-hmm. Your creativity is the thing that then opens the door for money to come back to you. So we've been conditioned backwards. Mm. We've been conditioned by the patriarchy, thank you very much, that you need money first before you can create. Incorrect. That's like saying, I'm not going to have sex until the baby comes out. Like, you don't birth something. You got to have the sex first. You got to create it first. And it's going to gestate underground in the darkness of the womb or in the dark, loamy fertility of Earth, Mother Earth. And in its divine right time, it will birth. And it doesn't come out fully formed, like Athena popped fully formed out of Zeus's head. Little tiny sprout comes, and you want to be gentle, tender with it. You don't rip up the sprout and be like, what's wrong with you? How come you're growing so slowly? Like, we don't do that. But we do that to ourselves, don't we? We yell at ourselves. So I think we've all been conditioned, to bow down to the mighty dollar as though the dollar has the power. Mm-hmm. And the dollar is the result of you claiming your power. Mm. The dollar doesn't have the power. You do.
I'm curious to hear you talk a little bit about like some folks that I've worked with, and I think I've gone through stages of this in my evolution too, of being kind of like the scholarship kid, mm-hmm. where like, I get to have amazing opportunities, not because I can afford them financially, but because like I get good grades or I have skill or whatever. So then you end up feeling a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates this divide. It's like, well, I'm different from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit, like the scholarship
We are
syndrome?
so in sync. So a couple of years ago, I had a really big breakdown and breakthrough because of the word scholarship.
Oh,
Because I also was a scholarship kid.
yeah.
I went to college on a scholarship. I went to high school on a scholarship. I went to college on a scholarship. I went to graduate school on a scholarship. And what did that teach me? It taught me that I got valued for living in my head. I got valued for being really, really brainy. And at the same time, scholarship is about being impoverished in my mind. I received a scholarship because I'm poor. And I was. I couldn't have afforded to go to the high school I went to. I couldn't have afforded to go to the college I went to. I couldn't have afforded to go to graduate school. So I associated me receiving a scholarship as me being needy, me not knowing how to manage money, me not having access to money. And that was really deep. So there was a lot of shame and a lot of pride.
Yeah.
That I was smart and I was needy.
Yeah.
And because those things were intertwined, I was afraid that if I was no longer needy, that somehow I wouldn't, I don't know. I don't even know what I thought.
Right.
But, part of the
identity.
recognition for me was that scholarship in my mind was associated with neediness. And at the same time, scholarship was, oh, don't let anybody know how smart you are. Don't be arrogant. Don't be a know-it-all. And I actually took my PhD off my resume for many years because someone said, don't let anybody know you have a PhD because you're going to intimidate people and they won't like you. And I believed this advice and I took it off my resume. And of course, my soul was like, what? I worked really hard for that and I loved it. And now I have to devalue this thing. And, so I was really confused around, is it okay for me to be smart? Is it okay for me to be needy? And the answer is yes and yes. We're all needy and we all deserve support. So I really had to reframe it. That's such a great question.
Yeah. Well, and I think I just want to clarify too, like, I don't have issues. I think it's great that there's scholarships that exist in the world. And I've certainly received my fair share, maybe more than my fair share in my life. And I've also offered them for my programs and they're amazing. But I think how we internalize it, right? It comes back to like, what do we make it mean?
Yes.
That can be really detrimental in terms of us being willing to receive financial abundance in other ways, right? Opportunities coming through actually earning money in a different way versus relying on a scholarship.
Yeah.
Right?
And I offer scholarships too. And I love what your reframe is, which is that I get to receive support.
Yeah.
Like somebody really loves me, somebody really sees me, somebody really appreciates me, somebody acknowledges my gifts, somebody's recognizing me for what I have to contribute. But I was really blind to that until I wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about like the power that money has in terms of our self-worth a little bit more. You touched on that. But.
The power that money has in terms of your self-worth is this. Money doesn't get to control your self-worth unless you let it. Money does not have power over your value. You value you. And we've been conditioned to look outside of ourselves to be validated, whether it's through a parent, which is the initial imprint and our attachment style. If we feel that we need validation in order to continue, or if we have learned that we're never going to get validation, so we're just going to do everything ourselves, or we've learned, I'm going to do it perfectly and then nobody can judge me. Nobody can find fault with me ever, right? So we have these very early imprints that are running in the subconscious, and these imprints happen pre-verbally. This is associated with our root chakra, with the earth element. It's really, how do we orient to earth? And if we don't have a way of orienting to earth that we feel supported and safe, we will be in constant battle with it because we don't feel safe. So we find ourselves wanting to hide, right? Wanting to go deeper into the earth, right? The body's actually really smart. Not so much the conscious analytical mind. The conscious analytical mind gets us in trouble. But the subconscious, which accounts for 95 to 99% of you, is very, very wise. Yeah. So our work is to learn to orient to that and to trust it and let it lead. Yeah. So if we're feeling afraid, what we'll do is we'll actually earthen. We'll go dark, right? We'll go dark. We'll hide. We'll dig a hole for ourselves. We might dig a hole financially, and then we make up a whole big story about it. But what's actually happening is we're creating a relationship with matter. We're trying to find a path to knowing that we matter. Mm-hmm. And if we hide, it's actually coming from great love for yourself. I don't want anybody to hurt me, so I'm going to do whatever I can to protect me. So ask me your question again. What was the question you just asked that I was on the way to answering, and I went into the earth and the hide?
Well, no, I think you answered it. Well, I mean, just like our relationship with money.
Our relationship with money.
Well, one of the things
it doesn't.
You're right. Yeah. Right. And one of the things so I worked with an expressive arts therapist a while ago. And one of the things that she encouraged me to do, and it was when I was working like part-time at a boarding school and going through yoga teacher training, and like I was making like $14,000 a year or something. And then I decided to invest like $3,000 in working with her. And I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to think I'm crazy. Like, but it was really powerful. One of the things that she did with me is had me write a letter to money. And this is something that I've had people do in my program as well, is to write a letter to money as if it was a person. You might have people do this too. Yeah, and you get to see like what the complexity of that relationship is, because it starts sounding like kind of abusive in a way. Like if you're like, money, you're never around when I need you, and I long for more of you, but I feel like I can't count on you. These things. It's like, wow, that's really intense. So I love that you bring it back to the energy of it and working with the subconscious, and good point about early on how we internalize our relationship with money is those early years of life that we don't remember ultimately, where we really our foundation of how we understand how the world works is solidified. Yeah. And so much comes from that time.
Yeah. And we project it onto money. I think money is a beautiful mirror, and it helps us see what our earliest conditioning is, because it's never about the money. The example you just gave of writing a letter to money, where you say, like, I really long for you. I really want you to pay attention to me. And you never do. Does that ring true with one or both of your parents? And have you noticed that shows up in your relationship with a significant other, or even with your friends, that you want them to pay more attention to you, but it feels like they never do? And then you realize, oh, I'm actually looking for someone to not pay attention to me. So I'm picking people subconsciously who won't pay attention to me, so that I can affirm this early identity I have, this very early event, that I expect somebody to not pay attention to me. And it's very eye-opening when you realize that what you projected onto money, as if money was a person, actually shows up personally for you.
Yeah. So what's exciting, and we need to wrap up here, unfortunately, but what's exciting is that we can change this.
Yeah.
We can change the story. I am so grateful for the work that I have done around my relationship with money. It has been life-changing. Yeah. And so how can people find you and find out more about what you do?
Well, I'm on Facebook. So if you tag me in this here thread, you can certainly reach out. I have a super fun group. It's called the Anatomy of Money Academy. You're totally invited to join, hang out. Every week, I also interview people about money and mindset and the chemistry of the brain, the biology of money. It's called the Anatomy of Money because your money story lives in your body. And that's so fascinating to me. You know, how the throat closes up, or you get a stomach ache, or you get a headache, or you feel tingly. And every physical response actually correlates to your ability to receive money, your ability to digest information, your ability to speak your truth. It's fascinating. So I love talking about that. So please join me in the Anatomy of Money Academy. And once you join over there, you can get a free book that's called Turn on Your Tap. And it's a little cliff notes of how to use tapping, emotional freedom technique, to literally change your brain, to literally rewire a story that says, I can't, into one that's more empowering for you, that says you can.
Yay. And I also want to mention that you do laser coaching in that group every week. So if anybody here is interested in getting a little session with Deborah, you can find that over there. And Deborah will be interviewing me on July 20th in her group.
Awesome.
So we can you can see what I have to say to her questions.
Yeah, beautiful. I can't wait to do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And again, I wanted to thank you for your declaration of interdependence too, which we shared in this community. So just to make that connection, Deborah is who wrote that amazing piece of writing that inspired so many of you. And I read it at the end of yoga yesterday. So if you missed that, check out the end of yoga on July 5th.
Thanks so much for having me. I have to fly because I'm teaching meditation.
Yes.
At 11, so
thank you so much. Really
Bye.
grateful. Bye.